Hello and welcome to episode 540 of Fergo and the Freak. I'm that bloke from Rugby League Project, Andrew Ferguson. You can find me on Twitter at AndrewRLP. And joining me as always is the glorious LeagueFreak. You can also find on Twitter at LeagueFreak. How you going there, mate?
Going very well, Andrew. It's grand final week and that's always exciting. And it's super exciting when your team is in 5 straight of them.
Is it?
Yeah, it's awesome. I'll tell you that. It's pretty fucking awesome.
That's cool, I guess. What's it like being in one of them?
Yeah. Well, one's fine. If your team's been in one grand final in a row, it's fine. It's okay. Fine. I guess that's an achievement.
It's something.
It's safe. It's adorable, really.
Cute.
Yeah.
We should preface this and say that, it is 3 a.m. and Freaky's just got back from the Dally M Awards. He was there. He was supposed to be the guest MC, but turned it down because there was, I don't know, I think there was an Oporto across the road.
Could you imagine me being the MC for the Dally M's? Like, first of all, I'd get up and say, why the fuck are we doing this at a horse racing track?
Yes.
And then the second thing is I'd say, like, this is boring. So-and-so won it. Let's all go home. So that would be it. And then I'd hang out with the Storm Boys for the rest of the night because,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or, could even be some of the Roosters boys.
Pro tip. Decline the ride home with Josh Adokar.
You won't be too bad if you're in the passenger seat.
Still, you don't want that heat on you.
Yeah, that's true.
You got to be careful.
Yeah. That's fair. That's good advice for people out there. See, already coming out with the good advice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also think what you'd probably do is if you were just reading about it and you go, you know what? I actually think he had a pretty shit game. I'm just going to give 6 random votes to some other person.
What about when what's his name from fucking the NRL CEO gets up? What's his name? Abdo. When he gets up and he gives his dreary, just corporate speak, 10-minute fucking blah, blah, blah. I'd get like 30 minutes into that and just be going blah, blah, blah into the microphone. Everyone would love that though.
I think it's high time that whoever the CEO is or chairman or whatever of the NRL realizes that their job is to be in a boardroom and that's it.
Yeah.
We really don't want to hear from you.
No.
Like if you've got something you need to tell us, tell some PR person or write it down somewhere so we can read it if we care enough about it. Otherwise, I don't want to hear you talk, especially Abdo, because when he says rugby league stuff, it sounds like he's reading it off an auto cue, and it's the first time those words have ever come out of his mouth, and he doesn't quite know how to say them.
Yeah. It's it's the same thing when there's a sports presentation and you get some fucking official up there and they yammer on, and it's like, we don't want to hear from you. We're not here for you. The Olympics is great for that, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
They got all these politicians and fucking bludgers and sycophants and stuff. They just yammer on and on about the Olympic spirit and all this shit.
I kind of get it though for that though, because it might be the only or the first time they've had an Olympics there in 400 years. So they're all out there going, well, you know what, we want our moment in the sun. But with Andrew Abdo, there's a grand final every year, and there's a Dally M Awards every year. Just shut up and piss off.
I don't know. Whenever I see somebody like yammering about the Olympics, I would just get up there and say, hey, we should pay some of these people, hey. Like, we're getting paid really well. Like, we literally say, yes, you can have the Olympics in 12 years from now, and that's our entire job. And then we don't pay any of the people that work at the Olympics or actually compete in the events.
Which is interesting, given all of the sponsors that are involved and all the money that comes in.
Yeah.
It's interesting that they can't afford to hire actual staff.
Yeah, you got to volunteer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we'll get back. The Dally M's are on tonight.
Yeah, I haven't seen, by the way, for our listeners, I didn't follow who won anything. I'm just over the Dally M's because they don't really mean anything.
Well, I mean, we can just rocket through this, I guess, if you want.
I reckon we should.
And look, if you want, we can do a guessing game where I can tell you the nominees of some of the awards and you can guess which one won.
Yeah, why not? Let's do that. That'll be fun.
All right. Did you want to do the NRLW or just the men's one?
No, just the men's competition.
Try and trim it down a bit. All right.
Yeah.
What have we got here? Try of the year was Xavier Coates for Melbourne in round 2.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I remember that one. That was the one.
It looked like a slam dunk while he's in midair.
Yeah, was that against the Warriors?
I think so. I can't remember.
Yeah, I remember the put down. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. Tackle of the year was Tom Dearden.
I don't remember that one.
I don't know which one it was. Ken Stephen medal went to Nico Hines.
What's that for? Oh, that's for the community.
Yeah.
Nico Hines is involved in a lot of community stuff.
He is indeed. Top point scorer was Valentine Holmes.
Okay.
And the Ken Irvine Award for top try scorer was Alofiana Khan Pereira from the Titans, who's now scored, I think, 44 tries in 44 games.
Not bad.
So he's doing pretty good.
Imagine if he played for a team that was relevant.
Yes, like the Tigers. The Proven Summons Medal.
Mm-hmm.
This was between Stephen Crichton, Tyrone Munro, and Joe Offahengawi.
Is this the one that people vote on?
I believe so.
Okay, so it's Stephen Crichton.
It was Tyrone Munro.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Rookie of the year was between Jack Bostock of the Dolphins, Kyle Iro of the Sharks, and Ethan Strange from the Raiders.
Ooh, that's a tough one. I'm going to say Ethan Strange.
It was Jack Bostock.
He played really well as well.
Yes. Captain of the year was between Stephen Crichton, Harry Grant, and Arthur Yeo.
Oh, man. I'd say Crichton.
It was Crichton.
It was one of those years where people were like, wow, this Crichton guy's really good. It's like, yeah, we know. You should watch some football.
There wasn't much commentary about his suit, but it's pretty fucking sweet, his suit.
Oh, really? What was so sweet about it?
Well, instead of just going with the plain black one that everyone else has got, it's got a little design on the in the black part. It just looked a little bit different, but not stupid or weird.
Would you? What type of suit would you wear to the Dally M's?
I wouldn't wear a suit.
Yeah, I think I'd go. I think I'd wear a white suit.
A white suit?
All white.
Oh, I see. Yeah, so if I'd have to go with a suit, I'd probably do a Bellamy and go with something with some outrageously nasty-looking pinstripes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because I'm not winning anything, so I need people to look at me for some reason.
You could wear like something like you were a villain out of Dick Tracy, hey?
Which
like
actually, no, you turn it with just a Ferrari red suit.
Yeah. What about you could get a suit that was like an Ali G looking one? It was all made out of acrylic.
That's the one.
That would be good.
Oh, there's a good reference. Ali G.
Yeah.
King.
You could say how many acrylics were killed to make a suit.
That's right. Coach of the year was between Craig Bellamy, Cameron Ciraldo, and Ivan Cleary.
I think I saw Bellamy got that.
Yeah. I did make a comment about this, and that was because Ivan Cleary wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
I said, Ivan Cleary learnt rule 1 of the Metro raffle, and that is if you're not there, you don't win the prize. That's his fault. So, out of the what have we got left here? The team of the year.
Okay.
So the nominees for fullback were Dylan Edwards, Hamiso Tabuai-Fidau, and James Tedesco.
I think Tedesco got it.
He did.
Yeah.
The wingers. Now, this used to just be one winger, but now we've got 2. So the nominees are Khan Pereira, Jacob Carraz, Zach Lomax, Brian To'o, and Will Warbrick.
Let's say To'o and Lomax.
Correct.
Wow.
Centres, Stephen Crichton, Herbie Farmworth, Val Holmes, Jesse Ramian, and Katoni Staggs.
Ooh, that's a bit tough. I'm going to say, obviously Crichton.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to go left field Jesse Ramian.
It was Farmworth.
Okay.
I thought Ramien too, because he was in the Origin talk for a long time there. He did start the season very strong.
Yeah, then he ended the season out the team.
That's right. 5'8", Matt Burton, Tom Dearden, or Jerome Luai?
Matt Burton, Tom. It should be Jerome Luai.
It should be.
Yeah.
It was Tom Dearden.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair enough. Like, I can see where he was the one getting the points.
Yeah.
When North Queensland won. I can see that.
Halfback was between Daly Cherry Evans, Jerome Hughes, and Ben Hunt.
It's got to be Hughes.
It was Hughes. I'm surprised Ben Hunt was there because I thought the other two were miles ahead.
Yeah, Ben Hunt had a bad year.
For props, so we need two here. We've got between Lindsay Collins, James Fisher-Harris, Adam Fanua-Blake, Moses Leota, and Joseph Tapine.
Joseph Tapine and I'll say James Fisher-Harris.
It was Fanua-Blake and Tapine.
Okay.
Hooker was between Blake Brayley, Harry Grant, and Reece Robson.
Oh, say Grant.
It was Grant.
Yep.
Second rowers need two here. So we've got Angus Crichton, Eli Katoa, Viliami Kikau, Jaden Sewer, and Hudson Young.
I'm going to go for Leif Hudson Young instead. Shit, that's fun. Oh, man. By the way, I'm picking people who I think they would have picked, right? Okay. I'm not picking who I would have picked.
Well, no, because some of them probably weren't even nominated.
Yeah. Man. Who are the names again?
Angus Crichton, Eli Katoa, Kikau, Jaden Sewer, and Hudson Young.
I think it's Katoa and Crichton.
Correct.
Okay.
The lock is Pat Carrigan, Ruben Cotter, or Yo from the Panthers.
It'd have to be Yo.
It was Yo.
Okay.
Now, the Dally M Player of the Year.
Well, I was going to be surprised if it was anyone but Hughes.
So when voting went quiet,
yeah,
Nicho Hynes was leading, had 30 points.
I wanted Nicho Hynes to win it so bad.
I'm not sure if he scored any points for the rest of the season because he had an injury.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously wasn't in the best of form when he come back. He might have scored some points near the end, but by the time he was back scoring points, he dropped a long way down.
I just wanted to know that Nicho Hynes was still around because I haven't seen him for weeks.
Oh, he got the community award, so you know he was around somewhere.
Okay, that's good.
So in the end, it came down to the very last round.
Wow.
And Jerome Hughes was up by 1 point over James Tedesco.
Wow.
James Tedesco got the maximum 6 points in the last round.
Yeah.
Have a 5-point lead.
Yeah.
And then Hughes got 6 points as well, so he won by 1 point.
Thank God. If Tedesco had won it, it would have been a fucking travesty.
I was legit surprised that he got as high up the leaderboard as he did because I didn't think he started the season that strongly. And remember, the Roosters were a bit hot and cold to start the year.
Yeah.
Not that he played bad. I just thought he was probably going to be too far back to make that surge there because he did finish the season strong. There's no doubt about that. But I was surprised he got as far up and as close to winning that title as he did.
Yeah, that's insane. That's really insane. Like, if you think about the top 5 most impactful fullbacks this year, I don't think James Tedesco's in it.
I'd probably have him in the top 5, but I.
Okay, let's go through it. Should he really be ahead of Dylan Edwards?
No, I actually had Dylan Edwards as my favourite to win the award this year.
Yeah, okay, so that's one. What about the Hammer? I think the Hammer had more of an impact on his team than James Tedesco did.
That's the thing. Dolphins finished 10th. And
I know.
That Roosters side...
They didn't beat anybody that was better than 10th.
That Roosters side...
Sucked. I know, Andrew.
Yeah.
They were just an also-ran that just happened to win a couple extra games. They were nothing special.
6 extra games.
They sucked.
5 extra games.
They sucked.
And scored nearly 200 points more.
They were terrible.
Look, I'm not debating that, but I would say that the Roosters were comfortably better than the Dolphins. And
that's fine, but give me the hammer any day.
Yeah, I give you the hammer any day, absolutely. But I wouldn't say that he was comfortably better than Tedesco this year over the whole season.
What about who else? Okay, here's one for you. Rapana.
Who?
The guy's a fucking walking disaster zone. But in the games that the Canberra Raiders won, he was one of their better players and he would have got points.
Here's the thing with Rapana.
Mm-hmm.
When he's good, he's fucking insanely good. He doesn't do it all the time in games and week to week. And when he goes bad, he does that when he's not being insanely good. He then becomes insanely bad. He's got no middle ground. There's no grey area with this bloke.
How about Bubba Kennedy?
I fucking love Kennedy.
Yeah, so do I. I think he had a more consistent year than Tedesco.
Yeah, I'll put Kennedy above Tedesco comfortably.
What about, you can't say Trebojevic because he only plays part-time and definitely doesn't play well in finals games.
Gutherson?
What about Gutherson?
No. Next.
Okay. What about Turner for the Bulldogs? He had a better overall season.
I'm having a look here. Did you say Turner?
Yeah.
Didn't play. He must not have played that many games.
What about who else? Anyway, I think I've made my point. I've gone through a lot. I mean, Reece Walsh.
I can go through the players who played 15 games or more this year at fullback. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, do that.
Scott Drinkwater.
I could see him scoring more points.
Okay, Kennedy we discussed. Tedesco said. Tyrrell Sloan from the Dragons.
No.
Jareem Buller from the Tigers.
They didn't win enough games.
No. Gutherson.
Yeah, same thing.
Edwards. Definitely.
Definitely, 100%. I thought he might have won it all.
Yeah. Ryan Pappenhausen. That's a no.
You're right. That's a no, yeah.
Yep. Tom Trebojevic said no. Connor Tracy from the Bulldogs.
Yeah, Tracy, yeah. I thought he would have probably got enough points. He had a great year.
Kalen Ponga.
Same thing. I mean, they love giving points to Ponga. He's the only player they know out of the Knights.
Keno Kinney from the Titans.
No, because they would have given it. Any time the Titans did anything decent, they gave it to what's his name? The Kiwi halfback. What's his name?
Johnson.
No. The fucking 5'8", I meant.
Oh, foreign.
For the foreign. Anytime they were like, foreign. You just watch the games and they'll be like, foreign's having such a good year, and you're like, I've watched the year the Titans have had. Foreign has not played well.
Nickel Clockstad.
No.
Tabuai Fidel played 14 games, as did Reece Walsh.
Okay, there you go. I'm surprised they played the same amount of games, hey?
Yeah, and Rapana played 13.
Yeah, but
this is at fullback. Latrell Mitchell was 11.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Rapana only played 13 games at fullback, yeah?
Yeah.
It felt like 87 games this year. If you watched it, it was a slog, mate.
Just watching Rapana at times, it's like watching 500 games at once.
It really is. I watch it and I get frustrated, and I'm watching it from the entertainment aspect. How bad can this be?
He manages to get both the highlights and the lowlights real filled.
Yeah, by the 80th minute, I'm like, what? Why do they keep selecting him? I can't go through this anymore. So,
yeah, it's a bit of work. Well, there you had 5. in front of you. Let's go out of that. That's what you managed.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah, I wouldn't have had Tracy in there in front of him.
Yeah, I just thought Tracy had such a good year. You know, he was, and he was super consistent for the Bulldogs. I thought that he was a big reason for how well they played this year. Got a lot of running meters for them and stuff like that. So I really thought he did well this year.
He's a rather unique footballer because when he came to grade at the Sharks, he was a 5'8" halfback.
Yeah.
And then got pushed into the centres and then onto the wing to fill a gap because they had just massive injury issues in that whole three-quarter line. And then became a centre and then went to the Bulldogs as a winger and then became their fullback.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous. And he's made that work.
To do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he worked. He just, for whatever reason, it clicked for him this year. It's cool when you see that happen with the player when they're shuffled around a bit and just they find a place and it clicks for them. It's great.
Yeah. So that's the Dally M Awards.
Excellent.
We'll go quickly. The Dally M Player of the Year for the women's. I don't know why they call it the Dally M for the women's because, Dally was famously well known for being male.
Yeah. That was one of the drawbacks about that.
Yeah. I mean, he was pro the women's game when they played that game in 1923.
Yeah.
He did go against the New South Rugby League's wishes, and he did turn up to promote the game. Mm-hmm. But still, he was male.
Yeah.
And so, therefore, I'd rather they named their Player of the Year after, their most prestigious female player.
Yeah.
But maybe in the future. But, yeah, that was won by Olivia Koenig from the Roosters.
Okay. I don't think I've seen one single women's game this year.
I've seen a few. The thing that's I'd say really, really amazing to me is seeing not just how the women's game has evolved and how quickly it's evolved from being, you're watching it going, this is pretty cool. I'm glad they're actually getting a proper competition now. And that was the first season.
Mm.
And then you're watching it now going, fuck me, they are insane athletes.
I just think what they need to do is like have it so that it kicks off the same time every year and it's the same length of season. It just feels as though it starts when the NRL is so ramped up that it's a bit of an afterthought and then all of a sudden it's all over. That's the problem I have with it. Like I'd still like to see it, even if they had their final series, like if they started the women's season early in the year and had their final series early or something like that, I just think it gets lost in the mix with the NRL final series and it becomes a bit of an afterthought, unfortunately.
I think if it started around round 9-ish, round 10, so that you have the finals happen, like the grand final for the NRLW happens exactly halfway between the end of the State of Origin series and the start of the NRL final series.
Yeah.
So you just got like big events, 3 in a row, and there's not much of a gap between them. So Origin, and then 2 or 3 weeks later, the NRLW grand final, and then it's like 4 or 5 weeks after that, you're into the NRL finals. I think that would be an awesome thing to do.
Well, and the problem is that they set up the women's season so that it works well with the men's. It shouldn't be like that. It should be whatever works the best for the women's rugby league season. So they have they try and do Origin at about the same time as the men's Origin series. And then they have their finals and it ends on grand final day for the men. And it's like, that's always been my problem about the NRLW, is that it's not set up for the women. It is set up to be a complement to the men's competition, and it should be more than that.
Absolutely. Especially this year, we've seen that it's, they've added the extra teams in, but it hasn't lessened the quality of the performances.
Yeah.
I'm loving the constant growth and evolution and improvement of the game. It has been absolutely phenomenal.
One of the things I have seen is the crowds, like they're playing at these games at bigger stadiums, and the crowds in some instances have been poor, and like they're playing games on weird days as well for the women's comp, and that just, to me, it all sort of, they need to sort it out better. I think that the women's competition needs to have its own setup. It needs to be run for itself. You know, if it gets the TV ratings, and it does, it should be run as its own thing. It shouldn't be a side work for the NRL men's comp. And that's always pissed me off. I've talked about that for a long time now. Yeah. So,
well, I think the other thing that gets me about it too is the number of different kickoff times they have.
Yeah. Yeah, they're all over the place.
I'll go through a few here from this year. 7:45 p.m., 11 a.m., 12:45 p.m., midday, 1:45 p.m., 6:10 p.m., 1:45 p.m. again. What is this? 11:40 a.m., 6:30 p.m.
Yeah, that's nuts.
7:45 p.m.
And the reason it's like that is because some executive sits down and they say, well, we've got a slate of games and we've got the New South Wales Cup here, we've got the Queensland Cup we can show. So, where's the play? The women's comp, we'll put it at 11:30 on the morning. And that's the problem for it. You know, it shouldn't be set up and run like that.
It's hard to have a consistently good season when the kickoff times are just all over the shops. You kind of that's why the men's one, like, all the kickoff times are between 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon through till 7:30, 8 o'clock. Everything's in the afternoon.
Yeah. Well, I could see where you could have the women's competition where every game kicks off, say, between like 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. because there's not that many teams. And I mean on a weekend, you know.
Yeah, at the moment there's 10 teams.
Yeah.
So they're playing 9 rounds at this stage. So they just play each other once.
Yeah.
That's perfectly fine. But, and the reason why the kickoff time is important, okay, you go to some grounds. Let's take, what's a good one? Bruce Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes when you're at Bruce Stadium, you've got a twilight game.
Yep.
And you stay out watching and you go, this is not too bad. And as soon as that sun goes near the top of the stand,
yeah,
and it just starts to dip underneath behind the stand, and the temperature goes from a nice, lovely, like 22, 23 degrees to minus 300.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes a bit of an impact on how the game's played. Let's not do that. I hate the fact that they do that in men's games. But having the women's games, you then, for some stadiums, the sun's on the other side, it's directly above you, so it can be a bit hotter when in some of the later games in the season. Can be in your eyes. You know, it's just, let's try and make it a bit more consistent across the board for them. And if it doesn't work with the NRL games when they're being played, then play them at different venues, but play them at the same time.
Yeah.
Or find a schedule that works. But something's got to be done that's better than that. It's just stupid.
I don't know. I just think that the NRL, the women's NRL competition, it's the way it's all set up. It's just poorly set up. It's poorly run, and it's just boring that they're named after the men's teams, and it doesn't have to be boring.
Well, I'd say this. Why do they need to have mascots at all? Why can't it just be called Brisbane?
I like mascots.
It's just a bit of American wank. I don't care for that.
I just think that, like, we got these women that, like, they're just footy players. There's no thing about the NRLW is it really is just footy players, and they just happen to be women. And I just think that they deserve so much more than what the NRL has given.
100% agree with that.
I would love for it to be like a women's comp run by women for women and just have fun with it. I think they'd have fun with it if they did that.
I don't mind the NRL being involved because they're going to give it the financial security that I want it to have.
Mm-hmm.
But I do agree that the NRL should not be managing how it gets run.
Yeah.
I don't know how you managed to dance that little dance there. Yeah. But I would like it to have the financial security that the NRL provides. And obviously the marketing and the TV audits, all sorts of stuff. That's all helpful for it. And I think without the NRL involved, it'll struggle to get airtime on TV and things like that. So that's a handy thing to have. But yeah, I wouldn't have the NRL involved in managing how the competition is structured and run and which teams are in and which ones are not and that sort of stuff. That I'd definitely be happy to go elsewhere. Yeah. So I don't know how that would work though, but it's a delicate dance and something that needs to be considered somewhere along the lines.
Yeah.
I also the NRL's. I mean, this is probably where you're getting to is that the NRL is obviously very much mostly focused on the men's competition.
Yeah, exactly, and that's why they shoehorn the women's competition around it, and it's not good enough.
Yeah, I agree. Right, what else has gone on in the world?
Well, there's a game on the weekend on Sunday that's pretty big.
Is there?
Yeah. It's between a team called the Penrith Panthers.
Hang on, there's football still being played.
Yeah, you wouldn't know it if you fucking
looked at the Tigers
newspapers. They're too busy talking about fucking Reece Walsh and Ezra Mann being supposedly banned from cities in, I don't know, some fucking third world country. And
America?
Yeah. And just stuff like that. But and it's funny because we've got this giant grand final. We got a team that's made it 5 years in a row, which is crazy. They're going for 4 in a row. You got the Storm, who a standalone have had one of the best seasons that we've seen in a very long time, if it wasn't for the Panthers. And they've just been the best 2 teams all year. And it really is a 50-50 prospect. Like, normally when you go into a grand final, I feel as though you've got a feeling about who it's going to be or who it's sort of leaning towards. In this one, I've got no feeling as to who it's going to be. I just really think it's going to be about whatever team just takes a few more chances and gets to bounce the ball going their way a little bit. I know that's boring to say, but I think it's just such little between these teams. One of the things that stood out for me, and I said this on Twitter, was that only 5 of the Storm players have grand final experience. Now, it's 5 of their better players, but that does count for something. Because if it didn't count for something, it wouldn't matter. Whereas you've got this Panthers team, I think it would be because they've named Snyder in the team for some God for knows reason. So he wouldn't have grand final experience, and I think he'd be the only one that doesn't have grand final experience. And the centre, Alamotti, wouldn't have grand final experience. But outside of that, the rest of them do. Yeah. So it's a big difference in grand final experience, and I wonder how much that's going to count for. And it's not just that on the day, it's the lead up to it. It's, how you handle your week, how you handle your expectations. You've got a few NRL things to attend yourself. The Panthers, a lot of their players, that's just how the season goes for them at this point. And so they will be super relaxed with that. Whereas the Storm will have a lot of players that are dealing with that for the first time, and you never know how you're going to deal with it until you're dealing with it. It's a weird thing.
That's very true. However, if any coach can get them to focus on the job at hand and keep them grounded for that process, it's Bellamy.
Yeah, definitely.
Probably just by every now and then just coming up and just, committing random acts of violence against them. Just, fucking focus. Bam, hit him with a brick.
I also think them being in Melbourne will help them in that regard.
Yeah, everyone stopped talking about any form of sport down here for the last 2 weeks. So
yeah, exactly.
They've zoned out.
Yeah, so that will help them without doubt. But yeah, that when you're looking for differences between these 2 teams, that's probably one of the biggest ones, and that's why I think it's stuck with me a little bit.
It's definitely going to be very, very interesting. Because it's one of the few times when I've gone into a grand final, I've gone, I'm not confident to determine who I think is going to win this.
Yeah.
I'm just not. Nearly every year for a while, I've been able to go, yeah, they'll win it, and you just watch them and they go out and get the job done.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't really been surprised by a team in a grand final yet, for a while anyway.
Yeah.
The last one might have been the Sharks, but I kind of had a feeling it's just sometimes you're watching a team play, and just the Tigers in 05 was a good example. They just had that momentum just going. It just feels like they're going to get the job done.
Mm-hmm.
You're not seeing a choke coming anytime soon. This time around, we don't have a team that's sort of come from a long way back to get there. We've got the two best teams in the comp all year and for the last several years, meeting for the second time in a grand final. You're going, I don't know.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And normally you go into these games and you automatically think, well, the Storm, they've been here, done that, and so they'll know what to do. But then you look at the experiencing in the grand finals, and it's weird how much the Storm team has changed from back then, that they only have 5 players that have grand final experience. But that's kind of crazy that they're such a different team already. And it's just one of the, when you're looking for differences between these two teams, it's one of them. And we've seen sometimes in grand finals that difference is a big one. It used to be massive when you had to lose one to win one. It used to be gigantic. Yes. I don't think it's as big as it used to be, though, because these players have, a lot of them have played in front of like big crowds anyway. But, you've got your Origin players who've all played in front of giant stadiums full of people and pressure situations and things like that. So it's not what it used to be, but it is still something.
Well, the betting markets have Melbourne at $1.90 and Penrith at $1.94.
Yeah.
It's as close as it could possibly get.
Yeah, I think that feels right. I think the Storm look like the team that's in better form, and the Panthers kind of look like they've just done the job to get there. I think that those prices are fair. And I think if it was any other team except the Panthers, and with the weight of everything they've done, I think they would be probably out 210, something like that, against the Storm. Because this Storm team's had a great year, but because it's the Panthers, it's a little bit different.
Now, I do have one interesting stat here.
Mm-hmm.
It's the only one I could find that shows any form of dominance to one team over the other.
Yeah.
And this is the finals only head-to-head record between Ivan Cleary and Craig Bellamy.
Uh-huh. So does this include his time with the Warriors?
Yep.
Okay.
Cleary leads 4 wins to 1.
Wow, I'm surprised by that.
We all know what the one loss was.
Yeah, the 2020 grand final.
So
wow, that's a surprising difference.
Yeah, I couldn't really split them other than that. Even looking at the Panthers' recent form against Melbourne, it's still not like overly dominant. So they've won 8 of their last 14 games against the Storm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not enough there.
Yeah.
To go, yeah, that'll sway me one way or the other. So yeah, it's interesting. It's definitely interesting. It's if anyone's going to stop this Penrith juggernaut, it's going to be Melbourne.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't put it past Melbourne. The other thing, though, is, and something which has not really been mentioned anywhere, is that I think that this Panther side might be realising that this could be their last chance to win a premiership with the current squad. And I say that because, yeah, they've lost players in the past, but this is the first time they're going to be, without Luai. It will be next year.
Yeah.
And that's a big pair of shoes to fill, and it doesn't look like they've found a suitable replacement yet. Coupled with the fact that Cleary has been struggling with injuries a fair bit the last 18 months.
Mm-hmm.
If they're going to make another grand final next year, they need Cleary to be fit for the majority of the season. There's no way about that, because Luai has carried that team a lot this year.
Yeah, he has, and done it very well as well. They'll also be missing Fish Harris. So,
definitely.
Straight away, that's a big loss. Although I think Liam Henry's shown he's going to be a pretty solid replacement, but he's not going to be at the same level. I think next year they're going to be like I still think they'll be a top 4 team. I think that there's too much.
Definitely.
Yeah, but that extra edge. I mean, look, with all the players they've lost, eventually you're going to lose your edge. Like, normally it happens with the first round of losses that you have for players that leave your club, and they've kept on rolling without so many players. It's been crazy.
They've been pretty good with who they've pruned and when. The only one I think that has hurt their style a little bit was the loss of Coruscant.
Coruscant hurt, but I mean, Kenny eventually he stepped in eventually and got to a point where he was his own thing. Defensively, he's amazing. So I think but that did definitely hurt them for a while and look, they still don't have an awesome runner game out of dummy half.
And that's kind of the thing that happened, is it meant that Penrith had to completely change their attack.
Mm.
It was no longer like just speed and guile through the middle. We had to start being a bit more hardworking through the front row, which obviously they managed to do.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't ever going to be an issue. But having lost Coruscant and then now having lost your big main front rower in Fisher Harris, the middle running game is understandably going to start to drop off a little bit.
Mm.
And then having lost Lua, who's been doing an absolutely phenomenal job, both as 5'8", but also covering for Cleary when he's off the field.
Yeah.
That's another massive one. This is the first time they've had, like, the losses will actually genuinely make an impact on how they play the game. And I wouldn't be surprised if Penrith come out next year with a completely different style and attack to what they've had the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, they'll have to. What they need really is for their junior base to spit out a couple of star players, and it's probably coming up to the time where it's going to get, close in the next couple of years, because it produces an international player every few years, whether it's for Australia or whoever.
Yeah.
So it's only a matter of time before that happens, and you kind of want the timing to be to be right on that. But I could see where you get into next year and there may be top 4, say even 6th or something on the ladder, and they come into the finals, and if Cleary's there and everyone else is on board, no one's going to want to play him. No one's going to want to play him next year.
No. Because
they're still going to have this crazy DNA in them that's just, like, scary. And that's the thing the Storm must be worried about. I think the Storm would be really confident against everyone else. But every so often the Panthers come out and they just put one on and they do something special. And when they've done that, they've been unstoppable. Like, doesn't matter how many points they've got to score in the last, 20 minutes of a match. Even earlier this year, we saw them score, I think, 16 points in 6 minutes against the Eels.
Yeah.
In a game that was over. Every so often you think of that game at Shark Park against the Sharks. That was another one where it was like, holy shit. And even going to last year where they went down to Melbourne and played the Storm. In the first 15 minutes, the Storm were just on fire, couldn't be stopped. And then for the rest of the game, the Panthers just pounded them and just absolutely blew them off the park. No other teams can really do that, where they do something really bloody special. The Storm will get you and lean on you and just blow you off the park for the entire game. But those sorts of turnarounds and those sorts of moments where you think a team is done and then they just all of a sudden you look around, you're like, oh, they just absolutely annihilated us for the last 35 minutes of the game. Penrith are really the only team that can do that. And so that's what's so cool about this grand final, is that we've got a team that is so good in the Storm and they're coming up against this freakish side. And I tell you what, like, if Penrith loses to them, it would be like a bookend to their incredible dominance that they've had over the last number of years. But if they actually win it, like, we're starting to, they move into a different level. Like, 3 straight is amazing. But you get to 4 straight, and then all of a sudden, you're in a very, very small category of teams. Very small.
Yeah.
I can't believe we're even possibly going to see it happen. Like the fact that we've seen a team make 5 straight grand finals is, I didn't think we'd ever see that. Did you ever think we'd see that again?
God, no.
It's crazy.
The fact that we hadn't seen it for 20 years before Super League came along.
Mm.
I mean, South was the last team to do it, 67 to 71. So, yeah, it was just short of 20 years prior to the salary cap coming in since the last time it happened. Not even that insanely good Parramatta side of the 80s managed 5 in a row.
Mm.
So we have to stop comparing them against that Parramatta side because they've gone above them now. That's just fact.
It's hard to argue that. Yeah.
And I mean, there's a few teams, all right. I've had a few people debate some of this, as I do, but here's the facts. Penrith's 5th straight grand final appearance is the 7th time such a feat has been achieved in the game's history.
Mm-hmm.
South, 1923 to 1929, that was 7 seasons. East, 34 to 38 was 5 seasons. Balmain, 44 to 48 was 5 seasons. South, 49 to 55 was 7 seasons again. St George, 56 to 66, that's 11. South, 67 to 71 was another 5-season one. And then Penrith.
It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. It would be to see him win it. To see him win 4 straight, I don't think I'd be as emotional as I was last year, and you heard me last year. It would be a very different thing because, like, the win and the 3 straight for me was like, that was it, So winning 4 straight would be just, I don't think I'd be as off my head as I was last year.
I'm fairly certain that this is how it'll be.
Yeah.
For you, when Penrith is up at halftime, you probably just put the Xbox on.
Probably.
Yeah.
I'll be like, I should go and see what Zer's selling on Destiny.
Yeah, and then you'll
tower.
I'll get a text message at 9:30. What was the score in the end? And I'll go, Penrith won. And he goes, oh, cool. You want to do a podcast?
Andrew knows the games where I'm freaking out a little bit because he gets a message, and I say, "What do you reckon?" And if Andrew's like, "Oh no, they're sweet," I'm like, "Oh, that's good. I can chill out a bit." But if he says anything other than that, I'm like, "Oh no," start worrying.
Oh yeah, it'll be interesting. I think that a lot of Penrith fans will be the same. They're just overjoyed about the fact that they've made 5 straight.
Yeah.
And it's hard to be sad or disappointed if they lose when you've just won 3 in a row.
Yeah. That's kind of how I feel. Yeah. Especially to the Storm.
Yeah.
Like to a team that's that good and, a team that I think the other thing is too with the Storm is that we lost that first grand final against them in 2020. And then the very next year we took them on and we beat them in the finals. And
this is basically best of 3. It's like origin of grand finals.
Yeah, almost.
Who's going to win the decider?
But it's like this is a team that when you look through it, like it's not like it's a team that they were never able to overcome the Storm because we have. So I think that that's a big thing in this whole run. Like we've basically all of the challenges we have vanquished, including the Storm. So it's not like there's a question mark. It's like you think of the mid-90s where it was like, I wonder how the Broncos go against the Raiders, and we never got that game.
No.
There's none of that here where, the Panthers kind of have beaten everybody. And so there's no question marks about whether they missed someone or there was just this team that they managed to duck or something. There's none of that. And I think that that's probably why going into this game, there's a calmness from the Panthers supporter base and just so happy to be in this position. And if they win it, it's like a bonus. And if they lose, then it's the bookend of the greatest era in the club's history and the greatest era of any club going back to that South team you mentioned.
Well, I mean, they have struggled against the West Tigers a little bit. Maybe they need a grand final against the Tigers.
Possibly. There's definitely the Tigers. It's weird when you think of all the teams that over the years, there's been a lot of hype and conjecture about. And, you go a couple of years later and those teams have been fucking devastated.
Yes.
Like, the Parramatta Eels is like, oh, can the Panthers beat the Eels? I think the Eels have something over the Panthers, and now look at it. Like, now look at the situation.
Yeah, their soul got crushed and then got ground down into a fine powder.
Yeah.
And then someone in Sydney just, had turned it into nose candy, so to speak.
Pretty much.
Don't know where it's gone. Someone's having fun with it.
Nah, I reckon Josh Adokar probably does. But, yeah.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. But it is really weird that we've seen that because they've been dominant for so long. I mean, even the Broncos, I thought that the Broncos had come back bigger and stronger this year, and they just sacked Kevin Walters after a terrible season. There's been a lot of teams like that along the way, and I think that plays into how Panthers fans feel about this grand final too, because there's no questions anymore. Like, if they lose this game, people aren't going to go, oh, that just proves the Panthers suck. It's like, oh, wow. Like, that was a great run. That was incredible. Probably won't say that again in our lifetimes, and they're going to be good again next year. And so, it's a weird feeling. It's a really weird feeling.
Yeah. It's just so people know, I'm not being facetious, so to speak, when I'm talking about the Panthers' struggles with the West Tigers. Because Penrith have won 12 of their last 23 games against the Tigers. And even in more recent times, that's 5 of the last 8.
Yeah, like it was, I remember when I was looking through, might have been the year before last, and literally the Tigers had the best percentage win-wise against the Panthers over their run. Yeah. And it was crazy. I think it was the Tigers. I don't even think the other team was the Storm. I feel like the other team was Parramatta at the time.
And this is the thing is that, let's be honest, every single team has a random bogey team, no matter where that bogey team sits on the ladder or how they're travelling.
Yeah.
They just struggle for some reason against them.
Yeah.
Unknown. Like, Melbourne's got it with the Titans.
Yeah.
We just see them constantly struggle with the Titans. Who knows why? Don't know. But it's just there. They had it also with Canberra for a long time. It's just crazy how it works. Nearly every single club's got a bogey team who they just struggle with for some unknown goddamn reason.
Well, and like, if you've listened to our podcast long enough, you know that there was so many times where we would come into a West Tigers versus Panthers game, and you and me would be like, oh, Panthers are going to score 80. This is going to be crazy. And it's just like the Panthers just, if they won, they kind of barely won. And it was just like the Panthers, I don't know, didn't turn up in a lot of those games. It was really weird, and we stopped doing that sort of thing. We were like, oh, they're going to annihilate them. So many games we thought that was going to happen, and it just didn't. It's weird.
It really has for either side. They've really absolutely put up a cricket score.
Yeah.
But the last time Penrith put 40 on the Tigers was in 2016.
Yeah, that's weird. Like, they did that earlier this year at Shark Park. They literally annihilated that Sharks team. That score did not reflect the complete domination on that night. I don't think I've ever seen a more dominant display than that ever in the NRL, where the Sharks were struggling to get to their own 30-metre line for most of the match. And yet, you would think they would have put 60. Everyone else has put 60 on the Tigers over the last few years. What the fuck, Penrith?
Yeah.
Pull your finger out.
Even the Sharks this year, they did it a few weeks after they lost to Penrith.
Yeah.
They beat the Tigers 58-6.
Yeah, it's so weird.
Right, it's just mad how that works. Now, obviously, you mentioned the Broncos there.
Yeah.
They did exactly as I said they would, and they've hired Michael Maguire to be their coach.
Yep, you called it.
Expert.
Mm-hmm.
So now the talk is who's going to be the new New South Wales State of Origin coach?
Oh, and hasn't the talk been wonderful?
It's been fascinating. So when does Andrew Johns start?
Yeah. What we should do is have the Johns boys.
Oh, and then have the Walker boys still in Queensland.
Oh, that would be amazing.
They're going to have an old WWF tag team match.
Be brilliant. I saw Michael Ennis tossed up by a media type earlier today.
Oh, my God.
I saw Paul Gallen tossed up a couple of times.
No.
It's so funny.
Are there any actual coaches? Trent Barrett, has he been thrown up yet?
I haven't seen Trent Barrett's name, but just wait. I think it was Dylan Edwards said that Ivan Cleary should do it. I think he said that in the media today. I don't think Ivan Cleary is all that interested in it, to be honest. I think that a little bit like Bellamy, that he is more interested in the process of the club game, and he's just so focused on that's what gets him going. Rather than
imagine if New South Wales decide, you know what, we're going to go all in on this, and we're going to have Cleary and Bellamy as the coaches.
Co-coaches.
Yeah, we'll have one can be the assistant to the other. They can choose. They can choose. We're going to pay you both exactly the same amount of money. One of you can be the assistant to the other. Basically, one of you is doing the press conferences and the other one isn't.
What about Jeff Tuvey? Jeff Tuvey might be good at Origin.
He would actually be perfectly fine at Origin.
Yeah.
You could get a bloke like him back for that. But yeah, they'll probably just find some former Origin great to come back who hasn't done it before.
As long as it's not somebody that is working for Channel 9, please.
Well, I'd rather that it was someone who's not a commentator at all.
Yeah.
So,
like someone with actual coaching experience would be good.
Brett Hodgson.
No. Have you seen what Benji Marshall has done with his coaching staff?
No.
It's basically all of his old West Tigers teammates.
So who's he got on there?
So Brett Hodgson is in.
I think Brett Hodgson, though, was doing lower grades coaching for the last few years at the Tigers.
He coached over at in Super League too.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he's had a bit of a warm-up.
He's got Chris Hyington in there. Yeah, like it's just all old teammates of his. John Morris is in there. That worries me.
I don't mind John Morris because he's not part of that, that core group of young players who came together all at the same time. He's a legit outsider and a legit coach.
Yeah.
So I don't mind John Morris being there. Hyington, I think he started doing coaching stuff when he was at Newcastle while he was still playing there.
Mm-hmm.
But, I don't know. See, I'm a bit the same. I don't mind a few of them if they've got legit credentials.
Yeah.
But if they're just being appointed because they're mates or because they play together or they know each other or something like that and going, yeah, I wouldn't mind that if the club was already they'd moved up the ladder and they're trying to get that little bit extra to get them into the finals, then maybe that would work. But when you're still at the bottom, I kind of just want the best coaching staff you've got to make them better and better and better until they start getting off the bottom of the ladder and winning regularly.
Yeah, and I also think too, like when you fall into that trap of, it's players that the coach played alongside, and then they also all played for the club, and the pool is very small that you're looking at when you get to that point. And, if you can say all you want, it's a worldwide search. It's like when Super League was looking for its CEO and they said, we did a worldwide search and it was the guy in the next room that ended up being the new CEO. Like when it's just a small pool and it can be a bad sign. It can be a sign that you're not getting the best people available. You're just getting the people you like. And when you're doing that, you're going to fail. The
one that's interesting is it looks like Robbie Farah hasn't been retained.
No, he left. I'm pretty sure he was out of there pretty quickly.
Pat Richards is back. He's coaching in the Laurie Daly Cup for the MacArthur Tigers.
It's not a good sign.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I wouldn't have minded seeing Mick Potter back in some sort of role with the defensive side, because this is something that's been a big glaring issue for the Tigers. Is the defense, especially this year, wasn't just the defense the whole year through like it had been the past few seasons. It was inconsistent. There were times when the defense was doing all the right things, and the defense was less likely to give up this year compared to the last years, even though they still had a ton of points put on them. It wasn't because they were giving up defensively. It was because of bad systems and bad structure. They were still trying to make the tackles and do the work, but the line was broken and the system was wrong to start with, and that's how the line breaks or the holes were created in the first place. Those are things which come through. They get fixed pretty quickly through good defensive coaching, and I'm not too sure that the West Tigers have anyone there on that coaching squad who will be good enough to fix that. I want to see a legit defensive coach there who can work on that. And that's where someone like Mick Potter comes in, because that's what he was good at.
And when you appoint your coaching staff based on being known personally, it's just not good. Speaking of coaching staff, and we got Maguire at the Broncos.
Yep.
They're not going to be happy with Maguire. They're going to turn on him pretty quickly.
Yes.
Because he's not young. He's not a former Bronco. He won't be there for 20 years, and that's what they want.
Yeah.
And so eventually it's going to go pretty bad for them as soon as things aren't going great for them. And so it's going to be interesting to watch how that all happens.
And look, he is a legitimate coach.
Yeah, he's exactly what they needed.
Exactly. But this is the problem, is I'm still amazed that the Broncos gave Walters the arse. Right. He may not have been the coach that was going to get you to a premiership, but I find it really hard to ignore what he managed to do in a short period of time with that club.
Yeah.
And he got hammered by injuries this year to key players the whole year through. And if you're not going to take that into consideration, that's a fucking slippery slope, because if that's now your measure and that's where you're setting the bar, what you're basically saying to every single potential coach out there is you're going to get sacked eventually.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes it hard to hire elite coaches, because elite coaches want to sign somewhere for a long-term deal and be able to do things their way. But if they know that they can get sacked at the drop of a hat, just through a few bad injuries or a few bad decisions or something like that, no one's going to go there. You're going to have to start finding either rookie coaches or, out of work coaches who will just take anything. And it's the start of a cycle backwards.
Yeah, it's a worry. It's a worry. I think that, they're going to be better next year just if the injuries turn around for them a little bit. So they'll be back in the finals next year, you would think, and they should be better defensively too.
Yeah.
But as I said, as soon as it's not going great for them, they'll turf him, because he doesn't tick all of the boxes that they want to have. And it's funny when you see a club get into that situation. Like the worst one for it is the New Zealand Warriors, where they went through a period of time where they were so desperate to have a Kiwi as their coach. And they would talk about we want a Kiwi as a coach so that he knows how to deal with players from a Polynesian and New Zealand background and all this stuff. And it's like, what the fuck are you all talking about? Just get the best rugby league coach you can have. And any time they've got the best guy available, they've done all right with them. Like Ivan Cleary, Daniel Anderson, even that the current dude that they've got he was Penrith was he a lower grade coach? I know he's assistant coach, Andrew Webster.
Yeah.
Like when they get the best available, it works well for them. But when they go and they say, oh, we want a guy that does this for us and this for us, that's why I was terrified that they were going to get Stacey Jones to take over the New Zealand Warriors coaching job, because it just would have been more of those sorts of bad mistakes. But they didn't. They went the right route, and it's worked for them. It's been good for them. So, Newcastle's another club that goes through that sort of thing where it feels like it wants to be a certain thing and it loses focus on just being the very best you can be. They kind of want to be a bunch of, players from the local area and coached by a local dude. And at one point they wanted to be owned by a Newcastle dude as well. And it all falls apart. If you just get the best available, that's how it works.
Yeah.
And, ironically, the most successful coaches they've had in their entire history have been a dude from England and Warren Ryan.
Not just a dude from England, let's be honest.
He's kind of the dude from England. All right.
He is.
He's the dude from England.
Well, let's not diminish him too much.
But it's interesting. If you went to the Knights and said, what do you want out of, your next coach, they would probably say they want one of the Johns brothers. Like deep down, that's what they really want.
Yeah.
And that's not how it works. Panthers haven't had this run because they've been coached by a former Panthers player. They're coached by a former North Sydney player that played for the Roosters, for crying out loud.
North Sydney, great.
North Sydney, great.
And he was a Manly great. Yeah, he covered all of the North Shore.
Well, he lived there.
And he also played for the Roosters. He just loved being by the sea.
Yeah. Went over to New Zealand.
Yeah. He just loves being around the water. So why the hell did he go to Penrith? Ropes Creek. Makes sense.
Ropes Creek, yeah. When you see the way that the sun rises over Ropes Creek, you see the water glistening with the petrol. It just covers it, gives you all of those colours.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Just beautiful. I had it's funny on Twitter, I've been talking about how, the Panthers have built what they've done on the back of local juniors. Mm-hmm. I had a Roosters supporter saying, well, not really. And somebody pointed out this year they had more Panthers juniors in their team, the Roosters, than Roosters juniors. It's so funny. People are funny.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
What else has been going on?
Well, I want to know, like, obviously not real, but gun to your head. Who wins the grand final?
See, I'm two ways here. Gun to the head. Mm-hmm. I'm probably leaning towards Melbourne.
Mm-hmm. But okay. See, you're thinking too much. All right, let me change it.
No. So
No. You're thinking too much, right?
No, I'm not thinking too much. I was just about to explain to you.
Here's the difference. I'll show you the difference, Andrew. Hey. Gun to your balls. Who's winning the grand final?
I don't need them anymore.
That's funny.
No, so I was going to say, I'm leaning towards Melbourne.
Yeah.
But the historian in me wants to see Penrith do it.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm kind of torn between what I think and what I want.
Yeah.
And it's too close to call between each way, so I really can't decide yet.
Yeah. Yeah,
because
this one.
That's the thing. As a historian, you read about all these amazing feats of the past that you don't get to see anymore, and now we're getting to live one. And that's what I find crazy about people just hanging shit on Penrith because they're successful now. No one was hanging shit on them from 1967 to 87 when they didn't meet. They made one finals campaign in that whole 20 years.
Yeah, worst expansion team ever.
No one was hating on them then. But as soon as they get a bit successful, fuck Penrith. And I really hate that mindset because you're denying yourself the opportunity to enjoy an insane piece of history being performed. And instead of embracing it and enjoying it, people are shitting all over it. And I don't mind it if you're doing it just for the shits and giggles and whatnot else. But I think it's things like this that people need to appreciate more. Because by the time you go back in history, well, sorry, when you go forward like 40 years or whatever, and you look back on history, you'll go, yeah, I got to see that Panthers team do that, and no team's done it for 50 years since.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll be a thing where you say it with pride, going, yeah, I saw a team that did 5 in a row. Just like the Dragons fans did for years after watching 11 straight premierships in a row. You know? So I don't like it when... Because this is how things get forgotten. Is people choose to perceive it the wrong way or to discredit it or look down upon it or whatever else. And I don't like how that happens.
Yeah, and it's crazy all of the different ways they try and poke holes in it too. Like, I mean, early on it was like, well, it was COVID year, all right, you know, and then it was like even this week I saw somebody posting, is the salary cap working? And you just think of all of the players that Panthers have lost.
Yeah, it's like, working.
There's no doubt the salary cap's working. It's just we're seeing an anomaly in the game's history. And just going through all of the different questions that have been asked about them. And that's the thing. There's no more questions you can ask anymore. And yet people still try to, which is really weird. Like, what more proof do you want that this is a really great team in a great era that they're having? I think though that like in even 10 years from now, none of it will matter. Because, as you say, you will literally be able to hand a stranger the record books, and this team is going to stand out, even if they just look at the last 50 years of the game. They'll say, well, look at what this team did. Like, tell me about this Panthers team, because they won 3, just say they won 3 in a row. They won 3 in a row and were in 5 grand finals in a row. What happened there? And somebody that doesn't know what rugby league is will be able to see that on the record books. So, and I'm like you, like, I think that's why last year's one got me so hard, because winning one's great, 2 in a row, fantastic. There's not many teams have won 3 in a row. And now we're talking about they've been in 5 straight grand finals in a row. And you're not getting the full what it was like to be a Dragons fan experience because they won 11 in a row, but you're getting a taste of it.
Yeah.
And it's even that taste of it is like, holy shit. Like, wow, that's what this was kind of like for a bit. And so if they can win 4 in a row, it's just more of that history being made. And like you, to be able to witness the history as it's being made, that, you know, you'll be able to, on your deathbed, you'll be able to say, that's probably the best team I saw play over any period of time. And the other thing is too, that I think people probably don't realize is that, you know, there are kids where this is the team. Like, they're growing up, and whether they were 5 when it started, now they're 10. You know, whether they were 10, now they're 15. This is the team of their lifetime. And that's going to have a gigantic effect eventually, where you're going to get kids come in and they're going to be like, I grew up in Queensland. I want to be a Panthers player, you know. And we saw a bit of that with the Queensland Rugby League team, where you had all these players from all over the world wanted to play for Queensland because they'd seen them win. It's just an extraordinary era to witness as 2 people that you're obviously a actual rugby league historian. I'm a fan of the history of the game. We love this shit. We talk about this shit when we're not recording. We talk about obscure teams, for hours and hours until we can't stay up any longer. And we're watching it happen. We're going to watch it on Sunday. And that's fucking cool.
Absolutely is. Now, I will say, on something you mentioned there before, I did see someone say somewhere, some other conversation about, is the salary cap working?
Yeah.
And the first thing I thought was, there's an easy way to check that, and that is to see how many players Penrith have used since 2020.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure it was just over 60.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how many of those 60-odd players have played 50 games for the Panthers since 2020?
How many?
18.
Wow. Far out.
18.
I mean, it's a giant turnover.
Yeah. 7 have played 100 games.
And 100 games is a solid start to a career.
Yeah. So Yo's played 118. This is since 2020, all for Penrith. 118. Yeah. Leota 116. Fisher Harris 115. Luai 113. Martin 109. Edwards 105. And Tua 101.
And normally at this point in these players' careers, or normally at this point in a player's career, when you look at across the Panthers squad, this is normally when you're starting to get to the point where you are maybe winning your first one.
Yeah.
And they're in their 5th grand final in a row. They've won 3 already. And they've got a chance to do something incredibly special. Like if they don't win this year, they don't win next year, and they win it, say, in 2 or 3 years' time, it's still going to be like, holy shit, they won another one, man. And they're still going to be young enough that they can win ones after that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's crazy.
It is pretty damn insane. Mm. Now, speaking of insane and stats.
Yes.
Head over to England. Because there's a pretty big match coming up this week.
Mm-hmm.
It was going to be the other way around, but we've got Wigan playing against Lee.
Yeah.
And if Lee can win that game, we will have our first English premiership decider since 1983-84 that doesn't involve any of the following 4 teams: Wigan, Leeds, Bradford, or St Helens.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, hey?
The first time in 40 years one of those 4 teams are not in the final.
Do you think the salary cap's working over there?
No. See, this is the thing, okay? And this is the flip side to the argument where people might think you've been a bit of a contradiction, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Is when I say I'd like to see Penrith win because, winning 5 in a row would be an amazing feat. And it's something that's historical here and would be amazing to see. And then you go over there and noticing that for 40 years you've had the same 4 teams, whatever combination, have been in the grand final.
Mm.
Not always those 4 teams, but, at least one of them has been in every grand final. But when you get smacked in the face with that much consistency over, the teams in the top 4, so that at the start of every year, especially now, it's now Wigan, Leeds, St Helens. At least one of those teams is going to make the grand final, and that before a ball's even been kicked off.
Mm-hmm.
That's somewhat demoralising.
Yeah.
So the fact that we're going to have a situation here which is going to be amazing on 2 counts, and that is Penrith are in their 5th straight grand final, which is almost unheard of, especially in the last 50 years.
Yeah.
And staring down the barrel of 4 straight grand final wins. And over in England, we're going to have the potential of seeing a grand final that doesn't include one of those 4 teams for the first time in 40 years.
Yeah.
This could be an absolutely insane season for rugby league.
Yeah, it would be cool if it worked out that way, hey?
So, obviously, because Hull KR is playing against Warrington will choke. So, Hull KR could be playing against Lee in the grand final.
Yeah, and I would probably favour Hull KR. I know a couple of Hull KR fans, and they would love that to win the title. And I know I shouldn't say that as a Hull FC fan, but, you know, just seeing different teams win the one in England, just anyone different is good. It would be great to see. To go into a grand final and it be two completely different teams, like if it was Lee and Hull KR, I would watch it. I'd actually sit down and watch it and be like, here we go. Let's see something different now.
Yeah, and you'd be watching going, I don't even care who wins.
No, yeah, exactly.
Because either one it's a win for the fans because we're not seeing the same teams always there.
I mean, Hull KR, their fans, a lot of meth users, that's fine. And, you know, Lee, they dress up like a bunch of sluts, and that's fine too. I've got nothing against either of those teams. So, yeah, I'd be a neutral.
You'd be neutral?
Yeah.
So if it was Hull KR versus Lee, you reckon you'd probably lean towards Hull KR. What if it was Warrington versus Lee?
Oh, mate, Lee all day. Not even a question.
I figured that'd be the case.
The funny thing is, if it was like Wigan there, I wouldn't have had the same response. But, you know, Fergo, Warrington, come on now.
Well, we've also had the last week we heard Newtown beat the North Sydney Bears in the New South Wales Cup.
Yep.
And North beat Redcliffe in the Brisbane Rugby League Grand Final.
Mm-hmm.
We got the Roosters playing against the Sharks in the Women's Grand Final, NRLW Grand Final this week. And yeah, that's pretty much it. The other finals over in England are only just starting up, so they've still got a ways to go there.
Did you see in that game between Norths and Newtown, when Newtown won it, their head of the Newtown club had a heart attack and died?
Yeah, I did see about that. Yeah, he passed away just after they won the title.
Yeah, what a crazy moment.
It would be. It makes it hard to celebrate when that's just gone on.
Yeah, I hope he got to see them definitely win it.
Apparently he did.
Okay, that's good. Because, I mean, it's terrible, it's sad. I'm not taking away from any of that at all. But I know that some of the grand finals, like that 2003 grand final, I thought I was going to die during that game. And then, like, even last week against the Sharks, and we won pretty comfortably, my heart was pounding at certain points during that game. And it's, last year I was just a complete mess when we won that game and had been for the last 30 minutes of that match. Like, I just lost it. So I can see that happening where you just, especially when you get, like, he was an older dude, and to have waited so long and he sees it, like, I was like, man, I hope he got to definitely see it happen. And yeah, like, it's sad. It's terrible. You know, he's got a family that's going to miss him and all that. But
looking for some sort of ray of sunshine in the misery of it all.
What's that?
We're looking for some sort of ray of sunshine in the misery of it all.
Yeah.
Hopefully there was something there.
Like, I could see when I become an old man, like you, and
like, I mean, we laugh, but I'm sitting here stroking a white beard, so you know.
Well, I'm fucking old as you are. I could see where, like, if the Panthers, I'd go out on a Panthers grand final win. I could see that totally happening. Like, when we're playing the fucking, the Tokyo Bandits or whatever we're playing at that point in history.
Tokyo Bandits.
We won, and that's it. I'm gone.
Yeah. I'll be ringing you then because I'll be saying they're celebrating because we just won the Spoon Bowl, which means we didn't get last place for the first time in 39 straight years. You're like, yes!
When the club's been run by Justin Pascoe III.
Which is literally just a spud.
Yeah, it's
just a potato in the corner, sitting in a bowl.
even worse is just like now it's just AI, but they put his brain into it.
It's running on one of those old floppy disks that we used to have in the computers back in the 90s, which is like, those big wide ones that were really thin.
Yeah.
Proper floppy disk. Did you hear that Netherlands had another international match during the week?
I did. Somebody sent it to me. They've been sending me the Netherlands results because it's it's always good to see,
Mate, since 2017, they've lost just 2 games.
That's crazy.
I'm going to go through them because a lot of them are against Germany, but I'm going to go through them because they haven't just been winning these games. They have been belting teams.
Yeah.
So we'll start with 2017. They beat Germany 30-18. They beat Sweden 28-24. Beat Germany again 38-22. Beat Sweden again 24-4. And this is 2018. 2019, they beat Germany 56-18. In 2020, they played the only international game for the year, and they beat Germany 20-18, and we saw that one.
We watched it, yeah.
Yeah. 2021, they beat Germany 48-16. They beat Turkey 40-18. They beat the Czech Republic 36-10. 2022, beat Spain 36-30, and they lost to Germany 29-24. First loss in 5 years.
Yeah.
2023, beat Norway 58-22, beat Albania 58-18, beat Serbia 40-10. And remember, Serbia, I think at that time was ranked 10th in the world.
Yeah, they're a decent side, yeah.
Then they beat Germany again 44-18 and beat the Czech Republic 36-2. This year, they beat Scotland 34-26. They lost to Ireland 30-28. And then last week they beat Serbia 52-6.
An actual real international rugby league team.
So I'm calling for the Netherlands to be in the next World Cup.
I wouldn't be against it. I'd like to see them play teams like I'd like to see them go against the Cook Islands. I think the Cook Islands would beat them, but the Cook Islands are a funny team. We've talked about them before. And I'd like to see them take on someone like the Philippines as well. I think that would be a really interesting clash because I think the crossover would do both teams good.
Oh, absolutely. I'd also like to see them play both Wales and France. Wales just to be a warm-up game for the French game, but France would be probably one of their strongest opponents that they've had. And it'd be good to see where they are. If they're competitive with France, then that's alarm bells for France, and that's a sign that Netherlands needs to get a lot more attention put on it and play against some other teams outside of that European area there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a pretty insane run they got there.
It is. It's crazy. It's how dominant they've been at that level of the game, which is a real level of the game. Like once you get beyond that level of the game, you start moving into the dude was born in Sydney and all of a sudden he's turning up and playing for Ireland, that sort of thing.
Yes.
Which is not real international football for me. But, I'd like to see somebody like, say, it'd be interesting to see, say, the Cook Islands do a European tour where they played, say, Serbia, the Netherlands, Germany, and France, and just to see where everyone is.
Yeah. That would be good. That'd be good. Then we can just sort of start sending over slightly stronger teams like Papua New Guinea. That would be a shock to them all, wouldn't it?
Yeah, we don't want to scare people off of playing the game. Yeah, even when Australia plays Papua New Guinea, it's a little bit like, oh, shit, scary. So, yeah, maybe not PNG. The thing is with the Cook Islands, like, it's funny, you look at their results and stuff and you think, oh, it's the Cook Islands. And then they run out there and, like, they've got some friggin' giants that play for the Cook Islands and plays with NRL pedigree and New South Wales and Queensland Cup players and things like that. And that's why I think they're a really good level to see where everyone's at. They've also, like, it's a proper sport coming out of the Cook Islands. Like, they really enjoy it. They focus on it and stuff like that. So that's why I like the Cook Islands as a barometer for a lot of different teams. Because I feel like if you can beat the Cook Islands, you're in a different level of the international sport. Whereas if you can't beat them, then you're that level down. And I think that it would be cool to see if some of those teams could maybe push into the next level.
Yeah.
I don't know that they would, because the Cook Islands are, as I said, they're a different level to a lot of teams, but it'd be a good test to seeing, where these teams are at.
I agree. And the only way to find that out is to have them playing against teams that they've never played before. Yeah. Because it's just a different style. It'd be interesting just to see where they're at. I think they need to know that as well.
Well, it's like, I think it maybe was 2017 where France come over to Australia and it wasn't the full French team, but it was pretty close.
Yeah.
And they played Australia's under 20s, the Australian under 20s team.
Oh, dude, that was a pretty nuts side.
And that I was about to say, that had some fucking ridiculous players for an under 20s team in it. But France needed to see where they were at, and they saw that night. They got pretty well beaten. But it was a bloody good team.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy, that.
It had Fafita in it. Who else was in it? Fafita. Because I went to their...
Here it is. I found it here. Okay. So the Australian team was Pappenhausen, Campbell Graham, Brian Kelly, Zach Lomax, Ruben Garrick, Kalen Ponga at 6, Brodie Croft. Wow. that just stopped me, that did. Corey Horsburgh, Reid Mahoney, Thomas Flegler, David Fafita, Angus Crichton, Victor Radley, and on the bench was AJ Brimson, Nat Butcher, Emre Gawler, and Big Tino.
That's crazy. I think it was Big Tino that I was thinking about, because I thought you get a national team coming over Australia and they're going to have a game, just sort of see where they're at. Australia's under 20s team, and then I was thinking then they run out against Big Tino and Fafita, and it's what is going on here? These guys are bigger than all of us.
Hang on, this is your second string side,
and not even second string side. These are your juniors. Crazy.
The juniors won 62-4.
Yeah, they smashed them. Because I went to that was the night that Australia played. Was it New Zealand or Tonga?
Tonga? Is that the one where they lost to Tonga as well?
I'm trying to think. I think it was New Zealand. They played against New Zealand. Because because it was in Wollongong. I went down there and I saw the French team coming off the field, and they was kind of in the back of the grandstand as I was going to get into my seats. And I knew what the score was, and I was looking at these guys thinking, man, these poor bastards, come all this way to come to Wollongong and then get thrashed by a bunch of kids. And it was kind of a weird situation.
Interesting thing, though, about that tour, that French tour, they only played the 2 games, but they did something that the Great Britain side that toured over here didn't do. And that is the French side actually won 1 game on their tour.
There you go.
They beat Western Division 22-20.
See, 22-20 is pretty bloody close.
It is against the Western Division countryside. But it's one win more than Great Britain's had in Australia in the last how many years?
Yeah, that's true. And to think some people wanted Australia to play Great Britain at literally Suncorp Stadium, the Olympic Stadium in Sydney, and the MCG. How fucking stupid can a person be?
So this is the thing with the Great Britain thing, all right? I don't mind Great Britain being a rugby league international side, but it has to come at the expense of Scotland, Ireland, and Wales.
Well, I just don't know what extra we're getting out of Scotland, Ireland, and Wales being there. Well, I think Ireland
we're not at the moment. All we're getting is an opportunity to have those 3 extra teams in the World Cup to try and make sure that the World Cup is not just all Pacific Island teams and England.
And look, here's the thing. I've got no fucking... No, you don't either. If the World Cup is just Pacific Island teams in England, That's it. Okay, that's what the World Cup is. Fine. I've got no problems with it, right?
Of course.
But there are some people in rugby league that do, and I don't understand it. And why are we catering to those people?
I don't know.
It makes no sense. I think you bring back Great Britain because, having Scotland and Wales in particular, that's not doing anything for anyone, right? Ireland is trying to do their own thing, and I know it's a different nation and stuff like that. So if Ireland want to go on it their own, I'm happy with that, right? But I just have never seen the sense in it's legitimate because Wales and Scotland are there. It's why? They suck.
Yeah.
They're not as good as, anybody that plays rugby league in the Southern Hemisphere. They're just not.
Here's the way it should be, okay? What you should have, if you don't want to have Great Britain represent that whole area, right? England, I don't care if England gets an automatic addition to the World Cup. Let it be. I don't care. Right?
Oh, I do. I do.
I know.
Fuck them.
I would have
No, Andrew. Fuck them.
I know. I would have Scotland, Ireland, Wales, and France play in a series, and only the winner of that series makes it to the World Cup.
I'd be happy with that, yeah.
Yeah. That way we could start opening this thing up and getting more teams that deserve to be there instead of trying to get reasons to justify having more of the British Isles teams there. Because that's how it feels at times.
Oh, man, doesn't it?
I don't know why Scotland and Ireland have been in the last few World Cups. They've just been passengers. Last two especially. And especially when you got teams like, at the time Serbia, for example, who had done everything, and they've got one of the more consistently solid and, well-supported local competitions that they've built up themselves. At some point, you've got to say, you know what, that hard work needs to be rewarded because it's going to benefit that entire country.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they come in and they lose all their games, even if they get flogged, right? The fact is, their hard work has seen their national team get to a World Cup. That's going to keep them committed to try harder and try and do it again and try and do it again and try and do it better next time. But if they keep busting their ass and it gets them nowhere, while other teams who basically just walk into it through some whatever flimsy sort of setup they've got in place, that's pretty demoralising. If I was a country, I would rather lose every World Cup game, but get to the World Cup and lose every game 100-0, than to be constantly striving to get there and constantly get ignored while some team just gets added in for whatever reason.
Yeah,
I would find that busting your ass and not getting there would be more demoralising than losing 100-0.
And the thing is too, you named the players that have been the best players available for Ireland, Scotland, and Wales over the last more than 10 years, and they're all born in Australia. All of them, every single one of them. And they're surrounded by dudes that were born in Yorkshire and Lancashire. And that's not international rugby league. That's just pretending. That's not real.
Well, if Serbia wanted to go down that path, and they can, they could get all three of the Trebojevic boys. Imagine how much of an impact that's going to have when they go over there and they start playing over there just for a year to try and qualify Serbia for the World Cup.
Yeah.
They start blitzing the competition over there. It wouldn't take much. And I'm pretty sure there might be a few other players in the NRL who would also qualify.
I just think the closer we get to real international games, the better.
Yes.
And if that means that it is mostly focused on the Pacific, then if you don't like it, do something about it. Get better. Because there was a very long time where all of these Pacific nations we're having to watch on, and now they don't. They compete, they win. So it's because it's their time now, and a lot of these other nations, it was never their time to begin with. Far out.
Yeah. Nick Kotrick was the other one who was also Serbian heritage.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be nuts. Yeah, there's a bit of international chat. Why not? Chuck a bit of that in there. What else has been going on?
The only other thing that caught my eye is that with the Super League awards coming up, because I guess it's their version of the Dally M's, and one of the people that is up to being nominated as the coach of the year is the coach of the worst team in the Super League who got relegated.
Hey, what now?
Yeah, there's 4 nominees for the coach of the year, and one of them is the London Broncos coach.
Mike Eccles?
Yep.
What? How? Because
no one takes it seriously. So no one takes them seriously. So hence fuck England.
Can I put an application for coach of the year?
Why not?
Sweet. You just send me the form, all right? I want to have a crack at that. Because you know what? You know what the difference is between Mike Eccles and me as coaches this year?
You haven't lost all them games.
I didn't get relegated.
Yeah, there you go. Imagine that, eh? Like, there's somebody thought they were really fucking clever. They were like, no, you should have seen. He actually was really good at coaching his team. I know they got relegated. I know they were going to be relegated all year. There was no question about it. But he really was the best coach this year. Trust me. Put him on the list.
I don't get that. I'm flabbergasted.
Yeah. They're pretty special over there.
I'll tell you what, with that being the case, Benji Marshall must be feeling pretty pissed off tonight then. Where's my fucking award?
What would be, okay, so let's go through the NRL ladder, right? Let me grab, because the NRL ladder should still be on the NRL website, right?
It's on the Rugby League Project one.
Oh, of course it is.
Home page.
Okay, hang on. Yeah. Okay, so we're going through, right? Let's go from the bottom. Let's try and pick somebody. Well, let's stop when we could say there was even a shred of a possible coach of the year sniff. Not that they'd win it, but they might possibly get it, right? So West Tigers, Benji Marshall.
Of course. I mean, got 2 wins more than they've achieved in the last 2 seasons.
Come on.
That's an improvement. Their attack is up.
Ben Hornby ended up coaching the Rabbitohs.
Who?
We got Trent Barrett ended up coaching the Eels.
No.
We've got whatever the organism that is living beneath the hairline of Des Hasler coaching the Titans.
That's no. There's not even a semblance of Des Hasler style football at that Titans side at the moment. I don't know what the hell they were doing all year.
Yeah, it's the Titans. They don't care. No one cares about the Titans. Andrew Webster at the Warriors. Mm-hmm. They finished 13th place.
After a very good season last year, they fell away bad.
Yep.
That's a no.
Can't beat him. Kevin Walters just got sacked. Broncos.
That's a no. No.
Yeah, I was gonna say something, and you said no, and so the next one was the Dragons. Just for your information, everyone. Wayne Bennett at the Dolphins. No, they missed the finals.
They've been mediocre again at times when they need to, which is the back end of the season.
Yeah. Well, that's the depth thing we've talked about.
It is.
Ricky Stewart at the Raiders.
No.
And then we move into the finals teams, right? Adam O'Brien at the Knights.
Well, I suppose he could be in a conversation.
Maybe. You could say, could you say that they sort of punched above their weight? Maybe.
A little.
Maybe.
Their attack was pretty miserable.
Yeah.
But defensively, they were far better this year than they had been in previous seasons. It felt like that anyway.
Anthony Seabold, 7th, Seagulls.
Well, given what his previous performance was kind of like, we thought maybe this was going to be a bit more catastrophic, but he's done all right.
Yeah, they had some crazy wins. Yeah,
you've got to give some praise to a bloke who gets Luke Brooks to play his first finals game.
Yeah, that's true. Like that's a kind of a miracle.
I'll put him in the yes category.
Cameron Serralo at the Bulldogs.
Absolutely.
He'd definitely be there. So,
remember after 3 games when he first started, it's like, oh shit, we've got to sack him.
Yeah. Well, we thought
just wait. And they turned out to be the best defensive team in the comp almost.
Just wait. Gus wants that job. Gus wants that job.
He's just waiting to slip some Xanax into his tea.
Exactly. Cosby style. So
that's the technique.
Yeah. It's so we were at 6th when we got someone that was a definite, right?
Yes.
But we're at 8th when we got our first maybe sort of. So finals teams.
Mm-hmm.
Not relegation.
No.
That seems fair.
Yeah.
And the person that won it was Bellamy.
That's right. So we also had Todd Payton. I'd have to say no on that because I don't think that Cowboy side was an improvement on last year.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'd say no to Craig Fitzgibbon. No to what's his face there at the Roosters. He's got a face like a smacked ass.
Yeah.
I'd say no to Ivan Cleary. And, you win 3 straight premierships and you end up second on the ladder. I don't think Ivan Cleary gives a fuck. I don't think he would have turned up if he'd won it.
I think what we needed to have this year, for the first time ever, is CEO of the year because Richo's got that.
Why?
Man, he managed to kill 2 cancers in 1 year. Are you telling me why?
Did he have cancer?
No. The Tigers did. Had 2 of them.
Okay. All right.
He's produced the first cure for cancer, and he proved it wasn't a fluke.
I'm trying to think of who would be. I mean, it's not going. The Rabbitohs, I guess they got Bennett, right? The Eels ended up with their coach being Trent Barrett for half the season.
South were a genuine competition heavyweight. And they finished second last.
Yeah.
Getting Bennett seems like that's not really a thing to be hanging your hat on. How did you make your team go so crap so quick?
I think what happened with Bennett, I mean, he did this thing where he was always going to hand over to Christian Wolf after a couple of seasons at the Dolphins. I don't rate Christian Wolf as coach. And then at the Rabbitohs, it's going back to a classic rugby league club. They obviously offered him a lot of money. He probably still knows most of the people that work there. And it's just an easy yes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's probably all that is.
That's a club that's getting very close to needing a clean out, and that's not something that Bennett has been historically very good at.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. They need to have an influx of their juniors come through and do something.
Mm.
And they need to make a couple of really tough decisions. And honestly, I think that we've talked about this over the last few years. Like, we talked about Latrell Mitchell not playing in finals games because he was injured a lot of the times. This year it didn't matter. But at some point you've got to look at your results and say, like, we're paying a lot of money for a fullback who gets injured and is getting suspended and all this sort of stuff, and maybe it's time to move on and go in a different direction.
I would legit be saying, like, I'd be sitting down with Latrell and saying, mate, we've decided that this is your last season here, irrespective of how well you play.
Yeah.
So now we are still going to pick you every week, but we want you to know that what you're playing for is your next contract at another club. So every game is you putting down your application for another club.
Yeah.
Right? If you decide to play crap or if you decide to muck up, then that's it. You're just not going to get another offer.
Well, look at...
That's just some of the hard talk he needs to have, because I think there's no doubt he's a phenomenal player,
mm-hmm.
but his form has been way too varied and inconsistent. And we've seen, like, even when he came back from injury last season, he was playing in second gear and still lapping most of the players. It was just ridiculous how good he is.
Yeah.
But he just hasn't been on the field consistently long enough and playing consistently good football for long enough to be worth persevering with. He's in that Tom Trowbridge type area at this stage as far as what he's given the team. Tom, though, is at least he's not problematic off the field. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying Latrell's problematic off the field. We'll put it the other way. The media has a problem with Latrell Mitchell, and so it doesn't matter what Latrell does. The media is going to be looking for something negative, so they're constantly on the lookout for something bad to whinge about it. So there's a negativity that he brings to the club, even though he's done nothing wrong. That just happens, and that's unfortunate. Which is why and a lot of that is because he hasn't been giving them a reason to write something good, and that's because he's not been on the field playing good football.
Yeah,
so they're going to go looking for the negative shit.
I think also, like you see, they bring in a youngster in Jai Gray, and there's almost a relief when you can just have a dude and you name him, and he's always there.
Yeah,
there's something to that, and if you're in and out of a team, and you're not going to be there for say more than 60% of the games. When you're in, you better be bloody good. And I look at someone like you look at Cleary this year. He's in and out of the side all year, basically. When he's in that team, they're the best team in the world. And I think of someone like an Andrew Johns, very similar to him in terms of like probably the last third of his career. He was always injured in and out and stuff. But, man, when he was out on that field, you had a chance to beat anybody. You got to be at that level. You got to hit the ground running, because if you're in and out of the side, it's just such a disruption. If you can't be relied upon, like one of the big things at being a professional rugby league player is that your club can rely on you. If your club can't rely on you, then it's very easy to say when it's not your coaching job or you're not the CEO. Because you've got to walk into Russell Crowe and say, listen, Russell, I want to get rid of the biggest star that the club has right now. And we might have to pay a big chunk of his salary next year to do that. That's a bloody hard sell, especially when Russell says, okay, who is the guy behind him? Who's next? And you've got to say, well, it's a dude that's a junior that, has only played a handful of first grade games.
Fuck, the power went out.
Damn it. I was on a roll too.
Oh. Look, I'm fairly certain what you said was pretty important and absolutely spot on because you're an expert. So yep. I 100% agree.
Excellent.
About that one specific thing you were talking about.
Excellent.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. What else was there? Did we get through it all?
Yeah, we got through it all. So give me a grand final predictions and tip and who's going to win the Clive Churchill medal and all that sort of thing.
Clive Churchill for me is easy because I'm going with Dylan Edwards for that.
Ooh, that's an interesting one. Obviously it depends who wins it. I'm going to go with Isaiah Yeo.
See, this thing, I probably should go for the one of the West Tigers players there. I should go with Luai.
What about what's his name? Oh man, I'm forgetting his name. The second rower.
Sean Bloor?
No. Well, I guess
there's a lot. I mean, let's be honest. There's a lot of the West Tigers have done a lot of development work for this grand final. Basically, the West Tigers go to the grand final. Who's the other one? It was the Luke Garner.
Luke Garner, that's it. I've had blanked out on his name. He's playing really well lately, actually.
We've also got the fullback for the Storm. He was a former Tiger.
Yeah, Pappenhausen.
Yep. So we've got a few there.
We
were so good. We even turned down Craig Bellamy as a coach. I mean,
that's true.
What's he ever going to do? And we had Ivan Cleary as coach.
So how do you who do you think will win, and what will be the scoreline?
Yeah, I'm. As I said, I want to see Penrith win. I think Melbourne will win 25-24. after 13 golden points and six lots of extra time. The game will go for about 4 hours.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
I've seen Penrith win too many of these games to bet against them. So I'm going to say Penrith win. I think it's going to be 32 points to 26. And I think it's going to be a real 80-minute slog. And I think Isaiah will be man of the match. And I'm just going. I think the Storm are in the better form. I think the Storm have beaten Penrith twice this year. The first game in round one, they just shut Penrith down. I don't think any other team has done that this year like that. The second game, it looked like Penrith were going to run home, and then Nathan Cleary got injured, and the Storm won it. And it was like, oh, Penrith is supposed to win these ones. But I've seen Penrith win too many of these to try and tip against them and think I'm being clever. So I'm going to go Penrith 32-20. What did I say? 32-28, 32-26, around 26. That place. And I think, Isaiah Yeo, man of the match. But I think Nathan Cleary and his kicking game is going to be pretty important. And I think that the thing to watch for is how Penrith's outside backs defend against the Storm. They have had a tendency to be broken down, and the Storm are maybe the best team in the league at breaking down a weakness. If the Panthers' outside backs defend well in this game, I think that's the thing to watch for.
I'll tell you what, one thing that's a genuine X factor that the Panthers need to be looking out for is Lazarus Lepu.
Mm-hmm.
That huge human's going to be on the Storm bench, basically taking up the place of Nelson,
mm-hmm.
who got suspended. Man, I'm a bit torn on the whole Nelson's Asfa Solomona suspension.
Really?
I
wasn't.
I think we've seen a lot of those this year have not copped that severe suspension.
Yeah, but he's got loading points going in. He literally hit Lindsay Collins, who's a big dude anyway, hit him in the head off a set kickoff, ran like 40 metres downfield, hit him directly in the head.
Yeah, and
knocked him out of the game.
I'm not overly opposed to him being suspended. I'm just not sure that I don't know. Something about me thinks that 4 weeks is too much, even with the loading.
Mm.
I was thinking he'd get 2 weeks. 4 just seems a bit much.
I just wasn't surprised by it at all. I thought, like, as soon as it happened, I actually thought he might have got sent off because the NRL really dislikes it when you hit someone in the head from a kickoff.
Yeah, I get that. And I'm not opposed to, as I said, I'm not opposed to him being suspended.
Mm.
I just think 4 weeks is it's a bit extra. I just didn't think it was going to be that much.
Yeah.
If it had been 1-on-1, then I could probably agree with it a little bit more. But there was 2 other guys in the tackle.
Mm-hmm.
I know people might say, that doesn't make much difference. It kind of does because it reduces the amount of area that Nelson can hit. Whereas if it's 1-on-1 and you hit someone with the shoulder, there's a fair chance that you've led with your shoulder and you've got less of an excuse if you haven't been able to wrap your arm around. You could probably say he didn't have an opportunity to wrap his arm around in that one there because there was other defenders that were in the way. And you go, that may be fair enough. But there's zero excuses when it's 1-on-1 and you haven't wrapped your arm around at all.
Mm.
But yeah, I don't know. I just thought it'd be 2 weeks. That's all I thought he was going to get for it. I didn't expect it. Was it 4 that he got?
Yeah, I believe it was 4. Yeah. I thought it was fair. I thought it was pretty fair considering what happened. It's interesting because he can be a bit of an X factor, but it can be work both ways for the Storm. Like I've seen him have games where he can change it for in a positive way, and he can change it in a negative way. He's definitely done it in a negative way when the Panthers have played. Like, I think he tries too hard when he plays the Panthers a lot of the time, and he gives away penalties and stuff like that. So, but I think anytime you can remove an X factor when you're playing the Panthers, you kind of need all of your X factors, whether it's someone like Nelson, who you're rolling the dice, it's either going to come up, as a good roll, or it's going to be snake eyes. You never know. But I think anytime you've got less of an X factor against this Panthers defence, it's a step backwards in your chances of winning.
That's true. And look, it's worth noting that this Lazarus Varlep, who's come on for the Storm, he was born in Penrith.
Of course he was. How many games has he played?
Oh, geez, not many. 8 games in the NRL. I think they're all this year.
Okay.
56 games in the QRL.
All right. That grand final thing gets me, grand final experience.
Well, he's not exactly a rookie either. He's 25.
That'll help him.
Absolutely.
That'll help him.
Big motor on him. He's 120 kilos and 190 centimetres, so he's a good slab of meat.
Mm-hmm.
He's a pretty good replacement for Nelson.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be good. I'm curious as to how Cleary comes up. I know they've all said that his shoulder's fine, but everyone does, especially when it's a halfback. Anytime a halfback clutches at his shoulder, even for a few minutes, just to give a bit of a rub, you just go, oh.
Yeah. Apparently he was lifting kids over the fence and stuff after the game. So I tend to think he's going to need surgery at the end of the year, but I think he's all right.
I reckon if Ivan saw they'd be down there, he'd be absolutely busy and says, no fucking Maccas for you on the way home.
Yeah.
Stop lifting stuff. Fuck.
It's interesting that Penrith have got to this point in the year and they're basically they've named their strongest team.
Yeah.
I think that, there were points this year where it looked like they'd, be the walking wounded coming into the finals a little bit and stuff like that. And Cleary's shoulder was a bit of an issue and stuff. But they're coming in, they've basically got everyone available. Got heaps of grand final experience. I'm trying to talk myself into it. I'll stop now.
You are, yeah. That's all good. All right. Well, we will next be chatting to you all after Penrith have either won or lost their 4-straight grand final.
Yeah, either way, it's going to be a piece of history, isn't it?
It is. It's pretty amazing stuff.
Yeah.
And we'll wrap this one up. Thanks for enjoying the conversation and the blackout. We just thought we'd throw the blackout in there just for fun. It was just chaos here. Anyway, make sure you check us out on all the socials. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, MySpace. So get over there, like, subscribe, all that sort of stuff. Share us around, and we'll catch you all next time.